gamers, welcome to the conclusion of Halo 2. We're going to talk about a lot of things today because if you know, the ending of this game was controversial. However, depending on what you were doing at the time in your life when this came out, you might not have even noticed, or you might not have cared, etc., etc. So we'll get into that. It turns out I was very much near the end of the game regardless. I didn't realize that. I said I was at the library. There's actually not much left. Really weird discussion that we're going to get into is the reviews of the game at the time, and what was marketed to people is just a lie in some cases, which is unusual. Anyway, let's get into it. So the main crux of what's happening in the story, and I want to be clear on this because I said this yesterday, I was into the story of this game. I actually thought they did a really good job. It was logical, it was deep, it was meaningful. It actually had a bit of a mature vibe of looking at war from the other side, taking into account the issues they're running into, the corruption that was happening over there. And this story had diverted into the Arbiter and Master Chief, and more so towards the Arbiter. And that was kind of my concern as we finished up in the first playthrough, or the first, midway through the game, was that we had leaned so far into the Arbiter's storyline that Master Chief started to feel like a bit of an afterthought. And I was wondering if they kind of not really been able to come up with much for Master Chief, because that's all very ooh-rah, military, whereas the Covenant storyline was far more interesting. And it was, especially because you're not telling a story of Master Chief. So fair enough. Ultimately, what happens then? The inevitable happens. You were either going to go to war with the Arbiter, but that seemed unlikely because the Arbiter was being sent essentially on a suicide mission by these prophets, that they would probably have some form of team up at some point, or some sort of agreement to work together in order to prevent the rings from being activated, because they accept the truth that is the rings are going to destroy everybody, whereas the prophets and stuff are trying to hold on to power. Now that is where the story goes. It goes in that direction, with a really great addition to the game. And I think this, in terms of story, was the best thing that happened by miles, and really cemented the Halo 2 story as being good, was meeting the Hive Mind. It might even be called the Grave Mind. It's basically the brain of the Flood. That was very, very intelligent and really seeing everything from all sides. Like, it had a wisdom to it, an ancient sort of wisdom that understood exactly what was going on from a different angle entirely again. So we had this angle of the military, the angle of the Covenant, and then the third angle came in with the Flood itself. Instead of the Flood being just mindless sort of brain-chomping zombie monsters, whatever you want to say, they are very, very, they're being led by a very high intelligence, or they're combined. I'm not sure how the Flood work yet, but they're combined, almost Borg-like unison, allowed them to know a lot of what's going on, because they are ancient. They've been around for a very, very long time. I thought this was by far not only the best cutscene in this game, but one of the better cutscenes in any story-based FPS game. Like, it was really solid. Is the Grave Mind having Master Chief in one hand, or tentacle, and the Arbiter in the other, while they're both sort of arguing their point, and then knowing that you're actually fighting for the same thing. The ultimate conclusion is the same, like seeing all possible endings of this going on. And then the Grave Mind sends them both on different operations, which is where the story sort of starts taking place simultaneously for the most part. Is we have Master Chief's mission, which is to recover the index and stuff. And then we have the Arbiter, who's going in through a different direction. At the same time, there's revolution amongst the Covenant, or rebellion, if you must say, between the factions. This isn't something I'd really thought about much. In terms of the Covenant, is that they're actually sects of different species for the most part, or different hierarchies, different ranks, different races of the Covenant. They're not just one unified, like, alien monster men that you shoot and die, which they are in, like, Halo 1, but now they've been expanded upon. And we've got the brutes versus the elites, and they're rebelling because the great journey is upon us. They have the key, they can activate the rings. That's what their whole religion is about. The prophets are telling them the great journey is imminent, and the brutes are the ones that are the dumber of the parts of the Covenant, and they're the ones that can be more easily manipulated. They're just like they're the brutes, right? They're the brute strong, don't really think 4 steps ahead. Where the elites are a little smarter. They're more like elves, if I would say. It's like orcs and elves, essentially, is the premise here. And so they turn on the elites and start killing them all, and the Covenant is now at war with each other. It's very nicely introduced, because you walk out and it's just done via gameplay. They're fighting each other, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? And it's not until a little later that, like, there seems to be infighting going on, because you're Master Chief, and you're like, I don't really get what the hell is happening here. It was very well done. This is good video game storytelling. The gameplay is showing you they're not just going, oh, by the way, there's a rebellion in the Covenants, so watch out. You're just seeing it unfold in front of you. All of this was fantastic. All of this was fantastic. And we end up with a situation where the Covenant is going to destroy Earth. I believe, and I might be missing some story beats here, I don't think so, is that the point is they want to the Covenant at this point, and the Prophets want to erase all possible Reclaimers, because that's who the rings respond to. They know that's bad because it undermines their authority, so they want to eliminate as many humanoids as possible. Like, get rid of them, go and destroy them. They've got this powerful ship. And I will say, inside of, I forget what it's called. A lot of people do know the name, but essentially the Covenant mothership is wonderful. So well done in the remaster. Very beautiful, very cinematic. So as you can tell by what I'm telling you here, in general, I was so into what was happening. Really good. We've got one separate mission. One is to stop the ring because it's being activated, and the other one is to protect Earth. Right? So the then it dove off a cliff massively. I don't mean dove off a cliff. I mean like Roadrunner style into dynamite and exploded in a fit of what the hell is this? And why did they do this? I guess we should call it the final boss fight because it is what it is. But you wouldn't have been able to tell. I honestly believed at this point we probably had like three hours-ish left of the game. But ultimately have a showdown with the main brute to stop the ring being activated and eradicating life, right? I shot this guy maybe 4 times and he died. To say he was easier than the just general trash enemies leading up to it would be an understatement. It was weird. As in, you can probably tell by the clip, I'm actually just shooting him and moving away to get ready for like another phase or some sort of positioning issue, because he was just a big melee guy, so he just shot and moved. And he turned around and it was over. A cutscene played. I was like, huh, that's really odd, because the Royal Guard, especially the Brute Royal Guards, are way harder than this. Way, way harder. And I've killed like 50 of those to get to here. I mean, we're talking, leading up to this fight was relentless one-shots. Just grenades everywhere and one-shot melee enemies all over the place. And then you get to this fight and you're like, huh. Now, many people made the excuse that like, oh, they're not known for their boss fights. Clearly not. They're bad. They're really, really bad. But there was better around at the time, let's put it that way. They certainly could have drawn inspiration from somewhere else. Either way, I was like, okay. And that's the end of the game. I was so confused. I mean, confused is an understatement. We don't even follow through Master Chief and Earth in any way. It just shows the cutscene of us getting there, and it's an actual cliffhanger. They just they just stop. Cortana's been left behind. You arrive at Earth. There's obviously a lot more story to tell. But you've stopped the ring, and it just goes dun dun dun, to be continued. Now, let's talk about this for a second, because it took me a while to actually process what just happened, because I was shocked. I was genuinely just in shock. I was like, to say it left a sour taste in my mouth. I do generally, my closer friends will know this, I generally have an issue with anything that's supposed to continue, like TV shows that are supposed to continue to multiple seasons that don't also wrap up their story. You can have some threads that are going to continue on, like some mysteries and curiosities, but I really dislike it when they're just left dangling, right? Like major plot points are just left with no satisfying conclusion, just in case another season doesn't come. I think it's unfair to the audience, generally speaking. Happens repeatedly, certainly in 2020s, is shows that just assume they're getting multiple seasons and just don't wrap up their stories in a satisfying manner. So I have an issue with that. I also have an issue with a game that is full price. Like, this is the and we're going to talk about Halo 3 in the next video, where they're just guaranteed more games, so they don't really have to do that. And so they don't, either for budgetary reasons or to make sure you come back. Needless to say, I hated this. I absolutely hated this. It was very dissatisfying. I felt like everything leading up to it was great, and then suddenly everything was just rug pulled from underneath. And I was just angry. I was like, this is just not okay. Like, in my opinion, this is not okay to just go, well, you've got like half the story and you'll get the rest later. Unlock. Thank you for your $60. Now, in talking with some people afterwards, because they obviously knew it was coming, the discussion was actually really interesting in that, well, you've got to understand that at the time, the gameplay loop was actually different than what you're expecting, which is completely fair. The multiplayer angle of Halo 2 was actually its main core feature for the gameplay loop going forward. Even couch co-op, right? Like much of the Halo players actually just teamed up with friends to go through the campaign either over and over again, which was very apparent. 'Cause I will admit, I got very frustrated streaming Halo to the point that I was really sort of 90% sure I was not going to stream Halo 3. I was going to play it, but not on stream. And a lot of that was, we have this issue on occasion with very retro, very popular games where people have like hundreds, if not thousands of hours in that game and very much assume a lot of knowledge and understanding, such as an intricate knowledge of weapons, special features of how they work, more depthy counters to certain units, which makes gameplay more efficient. Things, all these sort of like elements that they've picked up over those hundreds of thousands of hours, and they can be very smug and rude generally about that information. Like a cleaner example might be, I get a Banshee for the very first time, and people like, not many, but a few people being really back and forth are like, does he not fucking know about the boost? And I'm like, no, he's a fucking idiot. He hasn't read. Like, really quite rude. The tutorial hadn't even popped up in the game yet. It pops up like 2 minutes later. And it's like, you have a boost, right? It's those kind of things. And it's almost like there's an expected knowledge that they know because they played hundreds of hours. Of course they know all those things. I have the same thing with WoW. It's like people just don't know various functions that I'm aware of after thousands of hours. So I changed my mind towards the end because of this story cliffhanger, honestly. I was like, we kind of need to see where this goes. What was interesting in terms of the lies told about this, because I obviously am not looking for that experience. I'm looking for the story-based stuff, right? I'm not looking to do many playthroughs in multiplayer, but I understand Halo 2 was the most dominant multiplayer experience of its era. I totally get that. I still think it's very rude to shortchange players like that with the story, because it's almost like, pay us another $60 when the next game comes out, and then you'll get your story ending, It just feels really obnoxious to me, and very just a flaccid, disappointing ending to the game. However, I wanted to check the reviews at the time. So what I went to is I Googled like the Halo 2 reviews of that era, and the top one that popped up obviously was IGN. Now, IGN does bring up that the story is love or hate because of its cliffhanger. So definitely there was some feedback from some people about that. What was interesting is how I'm not saying they were paid, but how that information was manipulated. So one of the most obvious ones was how overwhelmingly they've invested into the story, how much they've done. It's now twice as long as it was in Halo 1. And I was like, excuse me? It's the same. It's pretty much exactly the same. And I know because of how many stream days we've dedicated to it and how we play through it. It was about a day and a half. And I was like, it's the same thing. Like, no, but they were marketing it as this monolithic mega campaign. And reviewers were repeating that. And it's kind of the era, I think, of journalists playing for a couple of hours and then kind of taking the brief. So I do this when I get sponsorships, right? Is I get a brief of what their selling points in case, and it's worthwhile. It's not manipulative. It's worthwhile in case you're just somebody who's taking a sponsorship and not looking into anything. You're just like, oh, okay, you'll pay me this to say this, and this is the information you've given me, so I'm going to tell you that. We don't do that. We dig in. That's what Nupps' job is. He digs in and checks it around, and often he'll refuse sponsorships based on the fact of like, oh, you've told us this game isn't pay to win. I've checked it. It is, right? It's absolutely pay to win. We're not going to do anything like that. So it was interesting to look through it as it kept getting brought up in this review of like, yeah, so there's like a cliffhanger ending, but the story's great. And it's like, don't worry about that because multiplayer, hey, which a lot of people did enjoy. Needless to say, overall, I absolutely loved Halo 2. I had a great time with it. I really enjoyed the story beats. I loved the mature threads. I loved the improved gameplay. I loved all of those elements. Detested the ending. And I will hold that forever, that opinion. If someone asks me about Halo 2 in 10 years' time, I'll be like, oh yeah, story's decent. Just be warned, it screws you at the end, and you're going to need Halo 3 if you enjoy the story, because they screw you so hard at the end. Well, there you go. Halo 2. I still give it a solid... It would be S tier. I'm going to give it an A because of that ending. So it takes it down an entire rank because it's rude. If it wasn't for the fact that today you can get Halo 3 for like £1, which I did, I would be more angry. But it's an old game. It's very cheap. Some of you probably just have it on Game Pass anyway. So that's my thoughts. But what a criminally bad ending. Absolutely hate it. All right, on to Halo 3.